Hi Flosstube, I'm Lori Schickalone and welcome to Once Upon a Stitch. It has been some morning already. Today is Monday, November 16th, 2020, and it's about, I don't know, maybe 11:30 in the morning. I have been trying to make this Flosstube video and my computer died. I plugged it in, but this is the one where the light switch has to be on. So with the light in here, it's very light since I have a lot of white furniture. So I'm going around trying to put things like over here. I hung up a little quilt that I made many years ago just to break that white up. And then the door behind me, like right above here, was really, really white. So I just threw a piece of fabric over it, and they're leaves. I don't know if you can tell that they're leaves. It's just to break up some of the whiteness in the room so that I can do a little bit better video for you. Today is a special video in that it's plans and new starts for the new year, for 2021, and I decided that I'm going to start them in December 2020. Because I had so many starts and I was really anxious to have new starts, I decided to start them early. And I just want to share with you my planning pages. Please don't judge me on my penmanship because I kind of scribbled it because I was in a rush. You don't know how many times I've gone through these bags, kitting them up, getting the floss, ordering more floss because they didn't have them in, looking here and there, getting fabrics, and I'm still waiting on a couple. But I wrote out all the patterns that I wanted to stitch, front and back. And then I went back and said, okay, which ones do I want to start in December? And I would go back and write December on a couple and then, go forward from there. Then once I had them all in order, I decided to do a sheet like this and list them by month. But what I did was, some of them I put the designer first and some I put the pattern name first. So I decided I needed it to be all the same. So I made the changes on that and I rewrote them again. And then I decided to move things around again. You see some arrows here and there. But then finally I came up with some kind of a plan that works for me. I had thought about, different things in planning certain things, but I have to do what's going to work for me for stitching and when I want to start to stitch them. So then once I finally decided on the order, I made this little cover for a notebook. I wrote them down by month and what fabric I'm using. So I'm going to tell you all today what the fabric that I'm using, but in case, down the road I forget to tell you and you ask me, it will be a really easy access to share with you. So December, I will be starting a Blackbird design from the book Home for the Holidays. Oops. Well, that was for 'Tis the Season. I had stitched 'Tis the Season, though I never fully finished it. This is the pattern for Christmas Garden. It is a very large piece. It's 225 by 272. And, seeing it like this, it doesn't appear so, but seeing people stitch it, you realize how large of a piece it is. So I decided that I was going to stitch it on 28 count Lugana in Springfield Sage. It's a very, very light green. The only, I hear myself saying all the time, and I've been watching newscasters on TV, and I say to myself, how do they not do that? Is that what they learn in college? This was the only color, which is Fool's Gold, I'm doing the call for, that I didn't know how it would show up, because it's like it's gold, but it also has this other color in it of like a tan. So I'm hoping it will be okay. That was the only concern as far as floss color showing up. So I'm going to give it a shot. So that was Home for the Holidays, Christmas Garden. In December, I will be starting a Blackbird design, Anniversaries of the Heart. And this one, I will be starting with January, and I have to thank Linda Ackerson, who sent me her copy of this. I was collecting them, and I hadn't had one, so I said, well, I have to order it, and she says, I can send it to you. And so I was ever grateful for her, to Linda, for sharing that with me. But I did have what I call a big revelation. Not a revolution, a revelation in what I wanted to stitch these on. I decided I am not doing it on one piece. I'm going to do them individually because, for two reasons. I'd like to change out the fabric backing color by what is going to show up. Now, on this one, there's a lot of, I don't know if it's actually white, but a lot of light colored stitching. And I like my stitching to show, even, I don't like ghost stitching, which people refer to, but I like it to show a little bit more. So I think I'm going to choose, this is 28 count Jubilee, and it's light taupe. And then I was originally going to stitch all of them on Heritage Lugana. And this is Heritage. It has a light modeling. But here's the taupe. And I think the January, I'm not going to say cottage, but snow garden would look nicer on the darker fabric. So I'm going to take it month by month as I go. And I'm using the call for thread. And I'll see how it shows up and what colors I want to stitch on. The next one I will be starting is Anniversaries, well, that was Anniversaries of the Heart, Hometown Holiday. And this I will be doing on a couple of houses on one long street, I'm going to say. And this is light ash gray. It's a Lugana 28 count. And it is a pretty long piece that I will be able to get a number of houses on. So I'm going to start on my street. There's going to be a firehouse, a post office. This was one of the, I think the last one that came out, and I loved it so much because my husband was a letter carrier for over 30 years. So to me that's special, that he put our family, you know, he held us together because I was a stay-at-home mom for a number of years before I went back to work. Then the schoolhouse, what is this called? Hometown schoolhouse, that's what it's called, schoolhouse. And then it's going to be grandma's house. And then finally the church. So that'll be my one street, and I'm going to try and stitch it. You saw how long the fabric was. I'm going to try and stitch it on the top section of it so that on the bottom one I can do another street. And then I have one more that I'm going to start in December. These are just December starts. And let me turn the page here. And this is, a number of people have started this already. This is the Red House Sampler by Brenda Keys, who's the sampler company. And I am stitching this on a 28 count mushroom Lugana. And these are called all DMC colors. And this was stitched on, their model was stitched on an 18 count Rustico. So I'll see how this goes. The Red House Sampler. So those are my December starts. January, I was thinking of starting. This was gifted to me, no, not gifted to me. This was, I won this from Brian, who's Blitstitch on YouTube, and they were the 4 trees, and the first one was Lovebird's Tree. And he also sent the fabric that went with this, but it's a 32 count, and this one is linen. So I will not be doing the 32 count linen called flax. I'm going to do it on a mushroom, which is, I don't know if you can really tell, but it's very similar. I mean, it looks a little different there, but it's very, very similar to mushroom Lugana 28 count. So I'm going to start that in January. And it, you know how this says, doesn't look like very many stitches. But I will let you know after I get it started. And, you know, it'd be nice if I can finish it in 1 or 2 go rounds and then be able to start the next house. I will try to match all the fabrics that he sent for that in a 28 count Lugana and save the 32 counts. And then in January, because we leave our Christmas tree up until January 6th, which is, some people call it Little Christmas, but in Italy it's La Befana, and that's the old woman who goes around and puts presents in little children's stockings. So I bought this from Needleworkers, and it's by the Primitive Hair, and it's called La Befana. And what's nice for me is the date is January 6th, stitched most likely 1 over 1 above that, and that's my mother-in-law's birthday. Now, I don't have the fabric for this. I asked Needleworkers to dye me some gingerbread, and I think that will be really, really pretty on that fabric. So I have, hopefully in a week or 2 it'll be ready, and I can get that done. So those are the 2, just 2 in January. Then February, I decided I'm going to start on the Red Bird Sampler by Heart and Hand. I'm going to stitch it with Lancaster Red from Weeks Dye Works, and I'm going to stitch it on a 28 count Ivory Lugana. And that's the pattern. So this might be one of the very few that I get finished in the same year that I started. Okay. Then, February again, I will be stitching Strawberry Feels Forever, Blackbird design. Sounds like a blackbird year. But there are a lot of patterns that I've purchased that I really like, and I'm going to start them, and whatever progress I make every month, it'll be more than just sitting in a file cabinet or drawer. And I'm going to stitch this on a 28 count Country Mocha, and I'm using the Call For colors. So I think that'll be really pretty. I can't wait to get this one started. Actually, I can't wait to start them all to see how it goes. The next one I'll be starting in February is Liberty's Welcome. And I will be stitching this with DMC. It's called for MPI Silks, and I think that's how the model was stitched. But I will be stitching this with DMC threads. And I have 2 pieces of fabric in here because I'm not really sure what I want to stitch it on. The first one is a 16 count. They stitch it on a 36 count. So the first piece of fabric that I have is a 16 count Heartland Ada. Showing up a little bit. Excuse me. I fell in the garbage can. And the other one is a 28 count Ivory Lugana. So I prefer the color of the Heartland, but it's on a 16 count Ada, and it is a little flimsy, but I know I stitch in a it's not flimsy, it's soft. And you have to really have it taut for me to stitch in. So I haven't decided. on which of those two fabrics that I will be using. But it required a large piece. This was, oh, he didn't put it down. I gave Needleworkers my piece of paper that told me how big of a piece of fabric that I needed for a 28 count, but so I just might stick with the 28. There is some 1/1, and I didn't know if I was going to stitch it. You know, I don't know if I want to write what? This work wrought by me, and then my name. But I have time to decide. That doesn't get started until February. Okay, we're into March. This is another one I'm anxious to start, and this is Satsuma Street Forest. I don't know if you remember, I stitched Autunno, which is autumn, by Satsuma Street, and I gifted it to Michael and Rebecca. And it was nice to hear that they hung it up during this holiday fall season, autumn. And she said to me, you know, I really, really like that piece. So I was happy to hear that. So this was gifted to me by my friend Dee Abrams, and she sent the floss that goes with it, which was DMC, and I am going to do it on an 18 count Ada in platinum. And I think that's what I did Autunno in. So I wanted to keep it similar. The next one I will be stitching is from the Sewing Club book. Yeah, there's so many things in here I wanted to stitch, but I decided to do a couple of smalls so that during the year I can actually say I finished something. The first one's Right Pair, and that is that one. And the next one I wanted to stitch is Summer Flocks, which is that one. And I will be stitching, now I've stitched one in here from this book already, and it was Garden Friends, which is this one. So I'm going to use the rest of the fabric, which is that 16 count Heritage that I might be doing the Heartland, not Heritage, Heartland, that I might be stitching Liberty's Welcome on. So that was Garden Friends, and I'm going to do the other two on this piece. And I will be using the call for colors, and if I didn't have it, I did substitute DMC for that. The next one that I will be starting, which is I'm way overdue, everybody else has done it already, is Brenda Gervais Spring Fling. And I will be stitching that on a 28 count Angel Blush. Well, can't really see the color on this one. Let's see. It's a very, very pale pink. Probably paler than is called for. So I might look for maybe a darker pink, because now that I look at it, the white, but I think the white will show up on this. I just think it's not showing up on camera very well. So those will be my March starts. Okay. April. Okay, one bag done. April, I will be starting my first Hands Across the Sea pattern, Mary Clayton. I thought I'd start somewhat small, an English schoolgirl sampler. And I will be stitching this on a 28 count Country Mocha. That shows up really well. And I will be stitching this with DMC. It calls for silks. I'm going to put this in the bag I emptied. And then again in April, I will be starting In Friendship's Way Blackbird Design Book. Welcome Dear August. I put these in here so you didn't have to wait for me to thumb through the... Now, the story behind this was August was, I believe, her grandson's, my sister's first grandson was named August, so they call this Welcome August. So I thought maybe it had to do with a month, but it doesn't. It was the grandson's name, and they do provide an alphabet, so I don't know what I'm going to stitch in there as far as where August is. And then the next one from this book is The Winter is Past, it's called, and that's about the best picture. I'm trying to go like this, as if you can see on top of it. Let me see if there's, oh, here's another picture. It's part of the alphabet showing. It's a small piece. So I threw in a couple of small pieces like this so that I'd have some kind of finish along the way. And this I have slated for a 16 count parchment. And that's a Zweigart fabric. Yes, 18 count parchment. I have 2 pieces in there. And April again will be a Brenda Keys, the Scottish Sampler. This is done in all one color, and they chose 823 dark navy. And I will be stitching that on 28 count ivory Lugana. Let's see, what did I say it was called for? 823. Okay, here's 823, and it almost looks black, but it's, you can see there's a little bit of blue. I was thinking of doing 336, but I don't know if that's too bright. So I haven't decided. I have until April. I might pull out a couple of other blues, and now that I have the fabric, I can actually hold it up against the fabric and see what I like. Okay, next is May, and that brings us to Stitch Mania. So I did kit up some things for Stitch Mania, and I guess we can go through the patterns really quickly. I'm not going to go through the fabrics, and I think maybe I won't do this at all. I'll save this for Stitch Mania, and I'll do that in April and tell you what I'll be stitching. But it's going to be basically small Christmas pieces that I can finish in maybe a 1-2 day rotation. But the other part of that is if I do not finish it in the 2-day rotation, that I will carry it over until October. October, I'm not going to have any other new starts. I'm just going to work on the Christmas patterns that I purchased, that I kitted up to stitch. So I'm going to save that. You'll have to stick around till next April to see what I'll be stitching for Stitch Mania. Alrighty, so that was April and May. Now June. I had this pattern for a while. I purchased this through, I think, McKenna when she was doing her live feeds at the Attic. It's called, was it the Attic? Yeah, that's in Arizona. It's called The Gilded Cage by Carriage House Sampling. And she stitched it. She stitched it really tiny fabric, or 1/1, and it was adorable. But I'm doing it on, oh, this is a piece of Ada that I coffee and tea dyed. And it's hard to tell if it's a 16 or an 18 count Ada. But this is the piece that I coffee tea dyed. I know Vanna had a tutorial on this, and so does Priscilla and Chelsea, the Stitching with the Housewives. So that's going to be June, along with Prairie Schooler, the Tortoise and the Hare. I stitched, if you're new to my channel, I've stitched Red Riding Hood and the Three Pigs. So I thought the next one I should do in the series is the Tortoise and the Hare. And I will be stitching it on the same fabric, which is a 16 count platinum Ada. It's a very light taupey tan with DMC. The next one is, okay, that was June. This is July, halfway through the year, and I will be starting Little House Needleworks Kringles. And when I purchased this, I shared with you that it reminded me of my department store where I grew up in, called Macy's. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it, and then maybe there's some that aren't. But it's a large department store. The largest store is in the Manhattan, New York City, on 34th Street. And they always host the Thanksgiving Day Parade, which is supposed to be virtual, I think, this year. I will be stitching this on a 28 count golden tan Lugana. They said that holding it over my right shoulder shows up a little bit better. So I'm trying to do that. And it's called for DMC, so I will be using the call for colors. And then in July, I'm going to try my first chatelaine. And this is a 28 count Lugana, just white. And it's Mini Mandela Mystery 03. I took it out. I was looking at it. The pattern is quite large, so I really like it, that I don't have to enlarge it, and it's easy to read. I will be doing it with DMC for the most part, with some Rainbow Gallery Patrique Treasure braid and some dinky dyes. And then it calls for beads, which I don't have. But my friend Debra, the AZ Stitcher, I asked her about, to get beads, and she said there's a place called European Beads Company, and it's in the United States. So I have to contact them and see about getting the bead pack for that. Okay, August, I will be stitching Blackbird Design, Oh Joyous Day. A lot of people have totally finished this already, but I'm looking forward to starting mine. And I'm going to be doing that on a 28 count Country Mocha. And I think it'll look lovely. And I will be doing it in the call for sampler threads. And if I didn't have one, I did substitute, but I'm trying to do as much over dyes as possible that I get. And then if I don't have them yet, I still have time before I start these later projects. Okay, what am I up to? So that's August, 2 in August. September, Little House Needleworks, and this is called Little House Neighborhood. I saw the finish of this, that Dena half stitch cross stitch stitched, and I just love the colors. They popped. They're all DMC, and I'm going to stitch this on a 28 count Lugana called Days Gone By. Really pretty modeling. I love it. So that should be really pretty on there. The colors should pop. It calls for all DMC. So that should be great. Okay, excuse me while I go out of frame to get the last of these. This was the way I was supposed to do. Okay, still in September. Another sampler company, Brenda Key's design, is the New England sampler. Oh no, this is Plant Wisdom. Plant Wisdom. This is one of her newer patterns. Let's see, does it have a date on here? Not where I can see it easily. And I will be stitching that on a 28 count ivory Lugana. It seems like a very light background for this. And this is all done in DMC colors. I found that when I stitched the Plymouth sampler by them, that the colors were, even though they're DMC, they popped for me, and I really love that they did that. Another Brenda Key's pattern. I look at my notes and then I have to laugh because sometimes I don't realize that I put two in the same month, but I did. And this one is the New England sampler. And this is being stitched on 28 count Lugana in a golden tan. And this is really pretty. I love this fabric. Actually, I think I told Needleworkers to dye me some more of this. I just loved it. It's a silk weaver fabric. It's soft, and I love it. I love it. Okay, and the last one for September is Cornwall Country Cottage Sampler. And that's what it looks like. And I will be stitching, well, this is what I have, but I'm not really sure about it. When I bought the pattern, I asked, I think I did it through 1, 2, 3 stitch. I asked for all the colors that it was called for, and they were all Weeks Dye Works. And I have here a 22 count white hardanger. Krafty Kim told me that she did hers on a 22, it's just white, hardanger, and she did it 1/1. I'm looking at the box, it's like, can I see this? So I might give it a shot. I might go back to a large, like a maybe 18 count Ada, but we'll see. I'll give it a shot. And that's September. October, no new starts. It's going to be everything from Stitch Mania that I haven't finished, that I'm going to try and make some progress in finishing if I can. Then we're in December. December, I'm going to have 2 new starts. The first one is, I put little sticky notes on here so I know what I have to do. This is the Scarlet House Seeking Refuge. I always love that. I love the saying of it. And for those that are not too familiar, when the world seems to be out of control, I find a way to nurture my soul. Seeking refuge with needle and thread, the angst and anxiety no longer I dread. And I will be stitching this with, on 28 count Country Mocha Lugana. And I was just trying to see, what did I say? I'm using DMC and a few classic colorworks. I decided, I think, to go more with DMCs, you know, like for the bottom section, the fill-in. But, you know, for the greens, I'm going to, and the house, I'm going to try and get the call for. So I have plenty of time till I get till next November. And then the next November, I will be starting, the zipper got caught, a Blackbird design from Sweetland of Liberty book. And I will be stitching in full glory. I always love this piece, and the eagle on the top of the house. And I'm going to stitch that on a 28 count. This is a Picture This Plus fabric, and the tag came off of it. And I want to say it might be Legacy, but I'm not absolutely sure what fabric this is. But it looks like it's definitely a Picture This Plus, and it looks like Legacy. So I'm going to stitch that one. So those are the two, Seeking Refuge and In Full Glory. And then in December, just about a year from now, the final one for 2021 will be the Scarlet House. And how appropriate. Perfect World. A Perfect World is the name of it. And you can read the saying right there. I'll hold it there. And I will be stitching this with, let's see, what do I have here? Weeks Dye Works. Yep, I have the call for on this, Weeks Dye Works. If this black section calls for black, it could be dark chocolate. I might do the DMC version of it because it doesn't look like there's any modeling in there at all. And I will be stitching it on a 28 count Lugana, thank you, Heritage. And it's tannish. Everything I tell you is tannish. But that's what it is to me. I'm not very good with colors, but I kind of stitch on what I think is going to look good and what I like to stitch on, whether it's Ada or 28 count Lugana. So I try to switch it up a little bit just for variety. But that's it. That's my plans. I hope you enjoy them. If you see something you might want to stitch with me, I hope you took notes of what months I will be stitching what. And until next time, probably I'm going to try and get a video in at the end of the week, Friday or Saturday, on an update of my regular stitching of my whips and two little finishes I had, and that's about it. So until then, stay safe, stitch a lot. I should be back before Thanksgiving to wish you good wishes, but until then, bye guys. Love you.